Okay, welcome back to the GymCraic Podcast, and I'm delighted to have Grainne Byrne, Diary of an IronWoman, in front of me. This podcast seems to be all about Ironmans and IronWomen, but the last couple of months especially, people think it's a triathlon program I'm actually doing because I actually interview so many triathletes. But it's a pleasure to have you here. From what I've seen of you over the last couple of years since I've been in Perth, see you football, see you doing triathlons, see you going to World Championships, and yeah, it's been an incredible journey. And you're the first female I've had to interview in quite a long time, so it's great to get a bit of a change up in the conversation around training, the conversation around triathlons, what got you into it and everything else. But without further ado, introduce yourself. Let me know how long you've been here in Australia. Let everyone know where you're from originally. And yeah, give us a little bit of a backstory into how we find ourselves here at Fitstop in Perth, Western Australia.
I'm Grainne Byrne. I'm originally from Malin in Donegal. So I've been here just over 5 years. So got myself into Perth. I was supposed to be traveling for the year, and COVID. So it was like 2019 I left Ireland. 2020, I had to cut short traveling, and I was on the East Coast, and I thought I was going to end up there. And whenever COVID kind of kicked in, I was like, right, I need to choose a city, and that was kind of ended up in Perth. I'd been here traveling and met friends over here, and it's funny actually on the conversation of like triathlon and everything. I just remember the amount of people in Ironman t-shirts. Like that's what I remember from when I first came to visit Perth. Was all
must have been around December sometime.
Was that? Yeah, it must have been.
Yeah.
It actually, Jonathan, it was the start of the year, so everyone had on their December t-shirts out. And I remember being like, "This is the place for me." Like I hadn't really done triathlon at that stage, and I knew I wanted to do it. When I always said when I was younger, like I wanted to do triathlon when I lived in a hot place, and this was the year I was moving to Australia. So that's how I found myself in Perth. But background before that, from Donegal. Family. I'm one of 9 kids.
Ooh, big family.
Yes, big family. We're a big GA family in Donegal. We've always been known for being competitive. So that's kind of where I suppose how I got into triathlon from, playing GA most of my life, doing a bit of running, nothing really outside of that. And I'd been living in Ireland the whole time. I've done a lot of travel. But the move to Australia was really the start of the triathlon.
Yeah, it's incredible to come. Like you come from Ireland, and you have like in Donegal, you have the weather, the bad weather. You get the brunt of it, just like we do down in Kerry. And to be getting into the Irish Sea or the Atlantic and getting absolutely the Atlantic up there, it's like getting absolutely smashed. And you think, how in the name of God am I ever going to like? You don't get into it to swim, basically.
Well, no, actually, when I was about 9, my mum took me. So we're actually right next to Malin Head, so the most northerly point. And when I was about 9, my mum took me to do the life saving. Like you can do your safety one, swim one and all that there. So I was about 9, and I remember the cold, and like I was probably blue when I came out of the water. But I did that when I was 9, and I actually went back every year until I was 16. So I did all my life saving, like was used to the cold water, but I hated the cold weather, and I always dreamed about living in somewhere warm. So I always knew I was going to end up somewhere. I didn't know I was going to end up in Australia, but I always did dream about living somewhere warm. So it was ideal that I lived here. But like I have so much respect for Irish triathletes.
I've been through it with the lads.
You were saying before about like, last year I had to go back to Ireland for a short amount of time, but I got someone to give me a trainer. I went out on the bike once and I got absolutely drenched. I had a 3-hour cycle, and it was like a week before a race, and I'd been on a trainer for a month. So I was like, I need to get out. Got absolutely soaked. And like my running's fine. You can do that in the rain. Like it's fine. But the swimming, like it was very different to here. So obviously all the swimming pools are all indoor, and I was going to Derry. I had to drive the whole way to Derry now. This is me in Malin, to drive like 45 minutes to Derry to the closest swimming pool. And the swimming pool was like...
Do you have a 50-metre up there? No.
Jesus, no. There's 3 50-metre pools in Ireland.
Is that what there is? Yeah.
There's only 3 in the country.
And we live here when we have 3 50-metre swimming pools within 5 minutes of each other.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
So it is. But tell me this. Obviously, when I first came across you, you were playing football out here.
Yeah.
So football was obviously a big part of your bringing up.
Yeah.
Tell me, go back to your kind of your bringing up where you play football at home, and then how when you've come out here, how you got into what the community aspect of football is like in Perth, and how it developed into where I suppose the community that you have made, friends that you have made and stuff. Because I haven't actually talked to a lot of people, too many Irish people just yet, on what's kept them kind of in Australia or what is the best thing about Perth. So I suppose football plays a massive part in that.
Yes. So at home, like we all played, like all 9 of us all went, and the age range, there's like 17 years between the oldest and the youngest. So there was always someone in the house who was playing on either one of the underage teams or the senior team. Yeah. And mum and dad travelled around Donegal, watching all of our games. So that was what I spent my childhood doing. Every weekend I've been a different football club in Donegal. So, that was growing up. And like seeing my mum and dad being involved in the club, like, that's no different to now what I'm doing. So funnily enough, like my mum and dad were the treasurers of our club at home, and I'm the treasurer of Southern Districts here.
All right.
So so like you're asking then how did it help here? So like I'm from a really good community at home, like Malin GA, like they it's such a good community, and I'll talk about it maybe a little bit later in different things, but like they just help. It's just like a family. Yeah. And then that's what I really wanted when I came to Perth. So landed here during COVID. I didn't really know anyone. I knew 2 people in Perth. And I'd kind of got word like, okay, Southern Districts has a good Donegal presence. So that was how I ended up going to Southern Districts. And so anyway, landed down, and sure, like, it's like a family straight away. And I think with COVID, it kind of made it stronger because no one was leaving. No one was coming in. Like everyone in Perth knew each other almost.
You might have had to bear 15 or 20 in the panel, I suppose.
That
would be
was
there
it.
every weekend, yeah.
And like we all became like a family because no one was going home. Like, obviously since the borders have opened up now, there's people missing because they're away home, and at Christmas there's not as many people around. But like my first 2 Christmases, no one could go anywhere. So like, it was there was orphan Christmases happening everywhere. We were all, so joining the football club was the best thing I did. And like, I know not everyone plays football, but like, well, we've a lot of social players as well. And, I've friends from the cycling club, and they've been here 25 years. Like they're past their Gaelic days, but their daughter is Australian, and she went back to Galway last year for a semester in Ireland. And when she came back here, she really missed that Irish presence. Yeah. And so I told her, okay, the 12 pubs are on with our club, in December. And I wasn't going, but I was like, look, go down. They'll look after you. And she was, geez, she knows everyone now in the club. Like she's never played football before, but she's, it's just a great way to keep that connection with Ireland here. Yeah.
It's a great way to, like, there's plenty of football clubs here. In Perth, there's probably, how many is there?
There is 5 women's.
Yeah.
Is there 5, 6 men's?
Yeah, possibly.
And then they've got the 2 or 3 camogie and hurling clubs.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's a great way to meet people. It was, it's again, when I came here, it was a case of, I went to Finbars, and it was like straight away you're in. Like you automatically get 20 or 30 friends that you can socialise with. And when I say socialise, socialising led me to triathlons because I was like, I can't keep this up. Football is one thing, but keeping up with them after the game on Sunday, and I'm not getting any younger. But it is a great way to meet people. And I think a lot of people, when they come out, they'll be like, oh, I don't play football. Well, no one cares if you don't play football. No. We just want you to be settled. And the quickest way to do that is go meet a community of people. And I suppose when that, like, going to football is the first thing we know. Yeah. A lot of Irish people come to Australia. It's not like, oh, let me go to a triathlon club.
No.
But so like you get in there and you meet those people. When was it then? Do you still play football?
So this year, I was to make the comeback.
Oh, yes, the comeback.
I was to make the comeback this year. And in January, I broke my ankle.
Oh,
so God. And like, it'll be the championship before I'm even fit. So I'm not, I went down a few nights to help out. And, I still try and show my face so people don't forget who I am. I'm the one with the money, so they need to remember who I am. But no, I'm still involved with the club. And, but next year, I'm not retired yet. No, I said that there's one more season in me.
You're too young for retirement, just yet.
Yeah, I'm probably older than you think.
Yeah.
But, no, it's been 2.5 years since I've actually kicked a ball. Because that's 2.5 years that triathlon's taken over.
How do you find, and like obviously it's kind of jumping ahead, but how do you find that transition of going back playing football when you've been doing triathlons? You've had a triathlon season already that you've gone back and played football, have you? No, you haven't yet.
So since I've full on taken on triathlon, I haven't played football. I don't know how. I don't know how.
Running straight lines, I'd say. A wing forward.
I'll probably turn around and hurt myself. That'll be it. I'll make one turn. Like, I'm known for being injured, and the girls in the football team know how prone to injury I am. But this running straight with triathlon's great. You don't get as injured as much.
No, ankle flexion, extension, whatever. But football, it is, and it's even the ground. You know what I mean? The grounds out here are hard, and I noticed that when I went back to play, I was like, oh yeah, you're fit and you're strong and you're healthy. But then you get on a football field that's rock solid, and you're just like crippled after 20 minutes of football, you know, and kicking ball and stuff. But definitely I feel like, going back, it's like you've got to be so mindful and careful. Like your body, your leg, lifting the leg up to kick the ball and like, you know, twisting and turning. It's a recipe for disaster, but it's, you know, I don't think you have to worry about that too much when you haven't done triathlons or Ironmans just yet. But I guess that's like getting to the start of it and where you're from in Donegal and everything else. And then you obviously come out here and triathlons. Where did the triathlon buzz come from in the first place? Because you've probably been at it obviously a couple of years now, and you seem to be doing very well at it from what I've seen. And there's ups and there's downs and there's everything in between. It hasn't been straightforward. Nothing is, and you know you're pretty open and honest about things, and you have your Instagram page, Diary of an IronWoman, and like it's great to see a woman's perspective on things. You know, all my male counterparts, like I train with a load of males, obviously the club, there's females as well. But what was it that got you into it, and where did you start and where did it begin?
So I was saying, like, the last 2.5 years, that's probably the start of the Ironman, like the proper Ironman journey. But like when I was a kid, like I was saying, you know those letters you write at school? And it's like when I grow up, or I don't know what age I was, it was going into like, it must have been 10. It was going into that like millennium capsule or something. And then you'd open up something like that there. And I wrote that I wanted to do triathlon but I wanted to live in a hot place. I do remember that. But like even back then at 10 years old, like I was probably watching the Olympics. That's the only thing I like from what I remember when I was younger. And then the first real taste when I did a year in uni in America, and they did like a triathlon in a swimming pool. And that was the first time I ever did anything close to it. And then years later, it was kind of like right when I got to Australia. And like the first year here, I did do a bit of triathlon. I joined a club. You know, I wasn't very present in the club, like did a bit of swimming. And
what club did you join?
I joined Fremantle Triathlon.
Okay.
And that's definitely the first step you should do is join a club. Join a club. It's the most lonely sport there is. If you just do it by yourself, it's so lonely. I don't know how, like, I started to crack towards the end of some of my training because I was finding it too lonely. Like, I just wanted to be with, like, my cycling group. But, you know, my coach was like, you need to be out in the triathlon bike. You can't be just in your road bike, you know. But so then, so when I first came here and it was COVID, and I kind of had it in my head, my 30th was coming up. And I said, I want to do a half Ironman. You know, I don't know if that's midlife crisis goals, but it is. You know, you get a lot of people.
Just explain to people what a half Ironman is that haven't listened to any of my previous podcasts.
Okay. So half Ironman is 1.9K swim, a 90K bike, and a 21.1K run. So a half marathon at the end. And that was kind of, you know, that was the goal for my 30th. So I started with the club and started doing a few of the small ones, and, you know, like my first race, and this is where I try and tell people who think that, oh, you're so good now, whatever. I'm like, my first race was down in, it was the Left Bank Triathlon. It wasn't even a full sprint size. It's 400 meter swim. So 400 meter swim, like a 20K bike and a 4 or 5K run. And I had a panic in the water. I just panicked. I remember starting with the group and I was like, oh my God, I'm with them, right? And then next thing, they're a mile ahead of me and I started panicking. Had to roll onto my back, had to backstroke, like panicked, right?
Did you have a wetsuit on?
No. I was in a tri-suit. And like that was my first race. So like,
my God.
You know, everyone starts somewhere. And that was that first year. And, you know, I was trying to play football actually that year, and I ended up with a stress reaction. So that was the first year. And that, you know, I did my first half Ironman. I actually did do it. It was during COVID. And like, you know, it went okay. The swim, someone said, God, you nearly hit the cutoff. And I was like, no, I was 10 minutes before the cutoff. But it was like, you know, 52 minutes. So that's a big improvement I look back at because, you know, let's say I got to 35 minutes last year in a swim, like 17 minutes cut off. People laugh at me whenever they're like, oh, you know about the swim. And I'm like, no. 52, one day it took me 52 minutes.
52 minutes for 1.9.
For a half, for 1.9. I don't know what was wrong with me in the water. I lost focus and I just wasn't swimming well. And and they made you do the Australian exit where there was like an M and they made you come out. And that threw me completely as well. So but you know, I've come a long way. Like, so that was my first year.
there is, I suppose, there when you say like, I think it's funny because we said this when you walked in and we were talking for 20 minutes. Like, we're like, we better start this because we just have 20 minutes of conversation. And it reminds me of the first time I did one as well. And we were told it was an Australia Day triathlon. They were like, no wetsuits. And I was like, what do you mean no wetsuits? Like, and I went out and I literally, it was 700-meter swim. I swam for about 150 and we hit a sandbank that we could stand up on to run across.
Start running.
Start running to go into the water. And I was like, this, honestly. And then like we were parallel to the beach and the beach's on my right hand side. And we had to turn left to go further out to sea. And I was like, I have to make my mind up when I get to that point. Do I go left or do I turn right to the beach?
Yeah.
And I went left and I was on my backside as well.
Yeah.
Because the only thing I knew before I did triathlons was how to do a survival backstroke when I went to learn swimming. And it just brings me back. And it's like, people don't realize that like the shorter distance stuff, like it's where we all began. And we all have like, it's never straightforward. There's usually the weakness. There's usually something that, you know, the water, you think, oh, I'll get into the water and it's going to be perfect.
Yeah.
You know, and there's own waves and then you get down and there's gale force and there's waves breaking your face and you haven't been in open water that much. It's like you do have to be prepared for the unexpected, and it's like how you deal with that. And race experience is probably a massive part of that as well, you know, and you learn so much from it. But yeah, to continue on, it's just like it's expected and expected, even though the race distance might only be 400 meters of a swim, 700 meters. Yeah. So once you've got that out of the way, then what was the next part?
I got to that first year, you know, I knew my swim wasn't great, but like I didn't do anything then for another year of triathlon. Not really. I was always fit. I was playing football. I started doing a lot of cycling. I joined like a cycling club and everything. And, you know, then I was like, no, I wanted to do another Ironman. And actually, so I went home for the summer and I'd lost my dad when I was at home. And, you know, I was home longer than I was meant to be home. And I'd come back to Australia and I'd said, right, I'm going to sign up for Busso in December. So I come back in August. The goal was, like, I just came back. I was so unfit. I put on a lot of weight. You know, when you're at the bottom of your fitness. And I was like, right, I'm going to sign up for the half Ironman. And I'd already thrown myself into the Rotto swim with work. Yeah. I had signed up for the Ride for Youth, which is the 700-kilometer cycle. Yeah. And what else? I'd signed up for a half marathon. I'd signed up for so much stuff because I just needed.
So what year was this again?
2022.
2022.
So August 22, yeah.
And then you had signed up for the 70.3 in Busselton.
No, so this is how the Ironman thing started. I went to sign up for Busso for the half, and it was sold out.
Oh yes, with 3 months to go.
With a couple months to go. And which doesn't always happen, but it happened. Yeah. And sure, what does any sane person do but decide to do a full instead? So Cairns was the following June. Yeah. And that was like the next full in Australia. And I decided, okay, let's sign up for that. So that was kind of how then, how the last two, like I didn't know what, I thought I'd signed up for that race. Yeah. And, you know, that'd be the next 6 months of training, but it didn't go that way. Yeah. So you talked about the Diary of the IronWoman page. Like that January, I got a coach. So Kate Bevlacqua from GK Endurance. I joined their group. Yeah. So this is my first time having a coach. Before that, you know.
Yeah, was it just winging it?
I was just winging it, yeah.
So how many events did you wing by yourself?
I probably had maybe 3 or 4 sprints, one or two Olympics, and the half Ironman.
And the half Ironman.
Yeah.
What would you say would have been like with the 3 disciplines? What did you find what gave you the most confidence going into any of these events?
So I've already said about the swim, like the swim got in the way. My race started when I came out of the swim.
Yeah, exactly.
And I would have always said running, right? So obviously my life has been playing football, dabbled in a bit of like road running at home. But then it was funny when I was here and I got a bit of an injury and I was really worried about my run. Yeah. And it was actually someone else had said to a relation of mine, like, Gráinne thinks that her strength's the run, but it's actually the bike.
I was thinking. Yeah.
And I was like, oh, really? And no one had ever said this to me because I didn't really have much experience in the bike. Like, you know, I was just turning up and going to some of the like Fremantle Club cycles, whatever. And I never really thought about it much. And then I kind of looked at other people and I was like, oh yeah, I suppose I am okay on the bike. Yeah. And it was probably the football legs. Like,
I think it's the bike can be a deceiving one because you think, you know, the skill level of a bicycle is like, I just cycle a bike. Yeah. But then you get to see that people, like, you know, in your training, you might be doing 25 kilometers an hour on the bike or whatever. And then, you know, you're picking it up to maybe 27 kilometers or whatever. And then you spend money on an expensive bike and you're like, okay, you can go a bit faster. And then, you know, for a 70.3, you're probably looking at about 3 hours on a bike or whatever. Full Ironman could be 6 hours. Yeah. And it's like, same myself. I never see it as a strength. I was like, I like the endurance. I like running. It's definitely not swimming.
Yeah.
But I think maybe a lot of it is like the confidence on the bike, where you are spending more time on the bike, and you are training. You should be training more times on the bike, and you feel like that maybe that isn't the strength until someone does bring it up in conversation to be like, no, you're a good cyclist, because they probably look at themselves and go, I really struggle when I cycle. So it's a massive part of it. So cycling probably obviously wasn't what you thought it was, but
and now it is, because like, you know, when you see your results and it shows you in your category where you've come in your swim, bike and run, and you know, there's times now where I'm actually like beating the winner, like the overall winner on the bike, but let's say they have a better swim and a run than me, so my strength definitely is the bike. It's where I'll always come higher.
There's massive potential when you see things like that. There has to be like
yeah, and that's actually what I'm going to focus on for this year now, like is actually the bike. But so that's
it's like you come into things and you're like, the bike, the three disciplines, and we always say like, that something has to give you confidence, you know, and we always say that it might be the bike, then we have to spend so much time swimming to get better at swimming, and then we're trying to put the three of them together. But when you get to, you never did the first Bustleton 70.3, so, and you went straight to the Cairns for the full distance Ironman.
So that when I'd planned it, so a few years before I had done my first, you know, winging it half Ironman, right? But then, so I signed up for Cairns and I got a coach, and this was me like, I'm planning, like I'm doing this properly, doing with the coach, and I stuck to everything. You know, it was like, I was telling you today, I looked back at some of my training weeks, and you know, I was doing between 17 and 22 hours a week, and like I was trying to make sure, like, you know, on the training plan, everything green. Like my coach will laugh at me now, and she was like, I'm sure there were some swims that were not green, but like the swim was probably the one I was going to skip. You know, if there's ever one, like I love my bike training. I was really enjoying the running. The swim, may have got skipped sometimes, but I got like, so that was like 6 months. I started in the January and my race was the 18th of June, 2023. And that, like I was saying to you earlier, like doing your first Ironman, like people had prepared me for it, and they'd said like, you never forget your first. And like, even looking back at the videos now, like it's nearly 3 years ago. Like that's crazy to think how long ago that is. And, is it 3? No, nearly 2 years ago. And like, I still get goosebumps watching that finish line, you know, like the day I look back and I'm like, could I have done anything better? I'm like, no, I did my training plan to a T. I wasn't, you know, after that, I was probably a bit more annoying with my coach changing things, which I've learned now, never change the plan, just follow the plan. But, you know, got to the race day, and in Cairns, like, so you start in a different place till you finish.
I've heard about this.
So you start in Palm Cove, which is like 30k away from Cairns, and the water is brown. You cannot see the water, and there's all this talk that it's full of crocodiles. And there's people, like someone told me...
You think sharks are bad enough?
Yeah. And there's someone told me before the race, like, oh, they put a bomb off in the morning in the water to scare them away. And then there's snipers on boats and like this. And I'm like, am I gullible, or is this... There is crocodiles. So that was the start of it. And then I still remember coming out of the water, and I had a pain in my head, and I'm like, sure, like, am I dehydrated already? So like, I don't know if you had pickle juice packed in your bag.
No, I've heard it.
So here I am coming out of the swim. Surely you don't need pickle juice yet. I decided to take the pickle juice mixed with seawater that I'd already swallowed.
Oh my God.
And I'm getting onto the bike, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm already about to be sick. So that was a bad start to the bike on my first day. But, you know, like, I'd all the training done, you know. There was mistakes, maybe I didn't push myself. You know, when if I don't know a road, I kind of lack confidence on the bike sometimes. So I know that was kind of the one thing I noted in Cairns on that first race. And I still remember, anyway, got back into Cairns after the 180k. It feels mad because haven't been cycling that distance. Even saying that out loud, like, after that 180k bike. I remember coming into the chute, and now Cairns is known for being hot. But I remember running in, and they had bike catchers, which was great. So
brilliant.
Someone was taking my bike off me, which was great. And I still remember my partner running alongside, like, keep drinking water. And I'm like, what is he talking about? Like, I just had a headwind for 50k. And I was like, what's he talking about? Keep drinking water. It's not that hot. That's like a thing. So we went into the medical tent, and I still remember there was like a woman, like there's people helping you. I don't know if you've had that in your race. There's people kind of helping. And I take off my helmet, and I must have been as white as a ghost. The heat just hit me like a bus. And the woman just looked at me and was like, there's a medical tent outside. And I'm like, no, I'm fine. And I just legged it. And like, Yanis has videos of me coming out and I look fine, but like a couple of minutes before I was like, I just felt like I'd been hit by a bus, the heat. And so anyway, Cairns was 4 laps. So you had 4 laps of 10. And so part of it was great. You're running in through bars and all these lads are drunk and you're running through triathlon clubs and they're all on the beer and all the 70.3 are finished. So they're all having a great time. So that was a good part of the 10K. Yeah. And then you went out to the airport. And this is where it got really like, oh my God, it got so dark. Like on my last lap, it was pitch black and we had like colored bands to see. And there was just people vomiting everywhere. And I was just like, this was the, like, get off this course.
Death zone.
Oh my God.
It's
I was like,
see it.
This, like, as hard as it was, like I told someone I was super sick on the run. And I was like, if I'd felt like that in the morning, I'd call in sick. Like that's how sick I was. Oh, it wasn't like some people were on about their legs and stuff like that. They're like, I think my body, I was trained, I'd done everything, but you can't prepare for like the feeling in your stomach and forcing gels into you. Yeah. And like I really was forced, like I was forcing in gels. They were probably coming out of my mouth. It was not a pretty sight. Like,
so was it going to shit at the very start of the run? Like were you able to hold?
It messed up my watch. I hadn't started my watch. So, like, it was the run was tough, but once the people started getting sick and it was getting really dark, I was just like, I need to get this finished. And I did. I kept the pace like the whole way through and like crossing that line. I was saying I've never felt happier. Like that. Yeah, just it was the best feeling. All the work had been put in. I wouldn't have regretted anything on the day. Everything went to plan.
It goes to plan, and when it goes to plan, it's great. And obviously, there's going to be the lessons that you take away from each event. And like if it was a case that you had pulled up in that run, there would have been a lesson learned. It's very hard to take on, to deal with those setbacks sometimes. But what was it? What was the main learning point from that event? What did you feel? Obviously, it's your first time. You've crossed the finish line. And there is no better feeling than crossing the finish line for your first time. Yeah. Because the hours that you have put into it, the financial sacrifice, the cost it is for your partner to put up with you, and like to do all this training. But once you get to what were the biggest lessons you learned from it, I suppose, to take forward from it out of that event?
So out of Cairns, so funny that morning, we were staying in Cairns and we had to go to Palm Cove. We'd get a bus to Palm Cove. So I left before my partner did, right? So I'm up in transition, right? And you're filling up your bottles, you're getting your bike ready. Yeah. And I start ringing Yanis because he's going to take my phone and take my bag and everything. Yeah. And he's not answering. And I have it in my head that he slept in because this is like 4 a.m. Yep. And I'm like, he slept in, and I started crying. Like, this is me the morning of my Ironman, and I'm in transition, and someone I know sees me, and I'm like crying. I'm like, Yanis has slept in. He's going to miss me starting this race.
God, I know.
And he just rang me back and he goes, I was just talking to someone on the bus. And that is the, like, you need to forget about everyone else.
Hi, come here. It's mad. It is like, you go down, you go like from Boston, my experience, you're looking for your partner, you're looking for your friends. Cause like,
they should be looking for you.
I know. People, you need to be beside us at all times. But like, you go down there.
We are emotional wrecks.
The stress level at the start line. Yeah. Especially if you're first time. I was like, the biggest thing I took away when I went down to Boston last year was take your watch off on the Friday. Because my watch was telling me I was doing 12,000 steps. Like, you're meant to be recovering. And next thing, this thing popped up where it says stress levels like at an all-time high. And I was like, you don't need that information.
I've never heard that before. Yeah. Take off your watch. Yeah. I should do that.
It only came, my Mrs. Kirby actually said it to me. She said, you need to take the watch off next time because, and I was like, that's actually great advice. Because we do, like, you drive down and you think, I only have to go into transition or I only have to drop off my bike, register and sit down. Yeah. And then you look at your watch, you've done 15,000 steps because you've walked around. It's like, I haven't done 15,000 steps without running for 6 months, and I've decided to do them the day before the Ironman. And so taking the watch off, but it's like, there is so many things that you focus on other than, like, you're worried about everyone else. You're worried about everything and you want everyone to be there for you. Yeah. This is the first time it feels. Yeah. Like, I do it now, I'll be like, come here, I'll be down there. If you want to come see me. But the support is massive for your first one. Yeah. As well, you feel like everyone does care because it is your first, and everyone in the triathlon club knows, your partners know, your friends know. Yeah. You talk about it all day long, every day.
Yes, I know.
People get sick to death of you talking about it, but it's like, that's what it is. It's important to you. And then you get to the start line and you're worried, like, where are they? Because you want them there. Take the photo of me, like, in my wetsuit for my Ironman and everything else. And it is very stressful. It's the last thing you want is to be overcomplicated. And we can do, everyone does it, I'm sure. Yeah. So it is. And we can be like, oh, I want, I want all these people here and I want this to be my day. But you must remember, like, people are about to stand around for the next 10, 12, 15 hours to see you jog up and down the road and, like, take your time. So, yeah, it's like, the emotional side of it can be incredible.
Yes.
So it can, especially, like, at the start of the event. So from there, then, you eventually get to finish. You finish it anyway. What is the outcome of the finishing your first Ironman? What happens next?
So the next day they have the roll down for the World Championships.
Okay, explain what's happening here.
Okay, so every year there's obviously multiple Ironmans around the world.
Was there a beer mile before that?
Oh God, yeah. Yes.
That just came to mind now. Yeah. Okay.
So this is a big thing I kept joking about before this race is. Yeah. So after Ironmans, a lot of the time there's a beer mile organized the next day. And from what I was told, to qualify for the beer mile, you had to have done an Ironman. So I kept saying, I'm only doing this to qualify for the beer mile. Yeah. Right. But on the day, the next morning, it's at 9:30 in the morning. Yeah. Right. And like, I probably didn't sleep because you take so much caffeine. Yeah. And the night before, I was awake all night, and then you're looking at your phone at all the messages, and obviously Ireland's time behind, so everyone's still awake. Oh. So yeah, I didn't get much sleep. And then the next morning, 9:30, we'd find out the venue because I don't know if they keep it a bit secret. Well, you're drinking in public, so they keep it a bit secret. So
you can barely stand up.
Oh my God! Yeah. Well, you surprise yourself.
I know.
So 9:30 the next morning, Koa Sports is a coaching group in the East Coast, and they had organised this beer mile. There was one of the pros was there, Steve McKenna. I can't remember where he'd come in the Ironman the day before, like maybe second, right? Yeah. Then you've got the winner of the 70.3, the male winner. Yep. There's probably only about 20 to 30 of us. People got disqualified. Steve McKenna got disqualified for starting his watch. But like they've all the beer lined up, right? So basically what you do is you have 4 cans of beer in front of you. They had a rough, it probably wasn't 400 meters. Yeah. So you drink your beer, put it on top of your head to make sure it's finished, and then you run the 400 meters. And you keep doing that until you finish. So I was the first woman to finish. And there was probably only a few lads in front of me. Like I passed most of the boys. But like we were running past this restaurant where people were having their breakfast and we're all burping. And but it was funny because... So me and the guy who won it was actually the winner of the 70.3 the day before. Yep. So we were given this massive cup, right? And obviously I had pictures of me with the cup all over, like on social media. And sure, people who don't understand Ironman, like I didn't find out till a couple of months later, but like someone was like telling them, oh, Gráinne won the Ironman.
Oh God.
And they were like, really? But it was her first Ironman. And she goes, yeah, I saw photos with the trophy. She won.
I probably fell into that category as well. I was like, oh, I know she's been training for this, and I know, like, she's putting effort. I know she's good, like, she's kind of good at everything I see on Strava because I definitely wasn't training for an hour.
Yeah.
And I was like, she probably has won it, like,
No, God, I'm just an amateur
campaign to be a picture for us.
But it's funny, when someone, so when they saw that, they thought I'd won it. So it was quite funny.
And it's the beer mile is like it's
very good. Like,
it is like it's everyone. It's a thing after the next day after the Ironman. Every Ironman really has done it, like, and it's a great way to get people around at that hour of the morning. Yeah. Again, and you get to meet people and people are around for the weekend basically.
But that is the best thing about these events, like, and the thing is, like, I met those lads that day, and obviously I won, so I was chatting to them, and then they actually have a podcast as well, and they were chatting. I listened back later, and they were like, "Oh yeah, Grainne from Donegal won," and I just thought it was so funny to hear them talk. Yeah. But I've seen them in Kona. I've seen them I saw them at Topo. I've seen them in Busselton. I actually presented the winner last year with the Beer Mile Cup. This is the thing about these events, like the Ironman, like a lot of people do an Ironman, but like the community can be quite small, and you do start to see people at the same races. Yeah. So it is really good to meet people and interact because like you'll see them again and you do become kind of friendly with them. So
and you do the more people you can bond with on this journey, you know what I mean? Because it is, like you said, it is lonely. Yeah. But like, you can't talk to anyone on the bike. You definitely not talk to anyone in the swim. No. And then you can barely, you might, like, do a couple of K with someone on a run, and next thing you got to go, or else I got to hang back. Someone got to go. Yeah. But did you, before we go to the roll down, what were your intentions going into your first Ironman? Did you put pressure on yourself in any way to perform at a certain aspect of time, or was it a case of I just want to see how this goes, and see what happens.
I think I did like, I was like, oh, 6 hours on the bike's, decent time, and 4 hours in the run is a decent time. The swim was kind of just survive and get through it. Like I did not have expectations really on the swim. And then the thing is, I kind of think then like, so my both Ironmans, I've got 6 hours like on the dot.
On the bike.
On the dot.
Yeah.
And like, I know I'm a stronger cyclist than that.
Yeah.
But I kind of like, oh yeah. And that's sometimes where I kind of let the fear get to me. Yeah. Like, oh, don't go past 30. Like you're going to burn yourself. Right. You're too fast and you'll not be able to run. But like, so sometimes I do think I limited myself. So if I, like the next time I go back to an Ironman, I definitely think I want to push my boundaries a bit more.
Yeah.
Because they're both bikes. I've got 6 hours on the dot with both.
Yeah.
And on the run, my first one I did 350 on the run, and I was really proud of that. For my first Ironman to do a 350 run, that was probably, if you'd asked me what's my most proudest achievement with all my triathlon, it's probably that run that day.
That's an incredible run.
Yeah, because I was saying like how hard that run was with people just around you getting sick, and I really had to push through. That was a mental battle that day, and I was really proud of myself to like for that run. So but no, I didn't put any pressure on myself with time. I knew I'd set those paces, and I kind of said, everyone said 12 hours is a good first. And I did 11:22 my first, and then Kona's a harder course, they say, and I took about 15 minutes longer on that course. But I was proud of both. Both of them were sub 12. It was. I was happy with them. If I go back again, would I like to go sub 11? Probably would, because I think I have a lot more knowledge now.
Yeah.
And back then it was like, people kept saying, respect the distance. Because you do.
You do, of course.
You might feel good coming off the bike, and then you 42K to run. That's a lot,
There's 4 hours in your head at least. It's like, no matter how I go about this, this run is going to take me around the 4 hour mark if you're lucky.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't go well, you're talking 4.5 hours.
Yeah.
So you come off the back of the Byrne mile. You've done your first Ironman. We get to the roll down, and this is something I haven't spoken about, because people, like, you see the World Championships, like, how would you get to the World Championships? But you've come off the back of your first Ironman. So can you explain? Because I've never had the chance to be to get called out on the rollout, or have aspirations of going to a World Championships just yet.
Yeah. So everyone turns up, and this is where they also present the podium winners from the day before. Because obviously the race finishes so late the day before that the full Ironmans don't get their awards. So you turn up, the podium winners get their spots, and then they call out. So every age group will have a number of spots for the World Championships, and they'll start first, second, third. So I think our age group had 5 spots. But the thing is, some of the people in the first few spots will already have had a spot, or else they don't want the spot. So that's why it'll roll down. Now, I was in 9th spot, and I was like, I don't know if the chance will come, but the first few people had a spot, and then it was like someone else didn't want the spot, and I ended up picking up a spot. And this was the first year that it was women only in Kona. So there was more spots.
Brilliant.
Now, I didn't know if I'd ever get a chance again. I didn't know if I'd ever do an Ironman to qualify for it again. So I decided, the very last minute, kind of looked at my partner. I think he thought the Ironman journey was over. And I'm kind of looking at him like, okay, we're going at this again.
Yeah.
And I took it. And I am so glad I took it.
That's amazing. Because it's like, you did say there, they've decided to split the World Championships up into 2 places. Correct me if I'm wrong.
So they have.
Every second year, they alternate. So the girls, is it this year?
So girls are back in Kona this year.
Yeah. And if it was last year, they were in Nice.
They're in Nice, yes. Yeah. And the men are in Nice this year. And last year, they were in Kona.
Yeah.
But they've actually changed it this week. They've actually decided, they asked for loads of feedback from triathletes after races and asked them their opinion on how they felt this was. And they're actually going back to men and women racing together in Kona.
Oh, no way.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
so this is what I mean when I say I'm glad I took my opportunity, because it's going to be back to like...
That roll down doesn't go far. That roll
down does not go far. You got to be in the top 3.
Yeah.
And
everyone's
even at that, it's going to be probably 2 spots per age group.
And it's probably the case now that people do see that the roll down was rolling.
It was
further.
Going too far.
Yeah.
Like even, I was kind of like, so I got to Kona from 9th place, and I actually got to the 70.3 from 9th place as well.
Okay, cool.
So I was falling in the same place, right? But like, years ago, you wouldn't be getting a world spot. Like, but I was proud of my times. Yeah. Like, some of those times would have got further up the position in other races. So, and I was like, I kind of felt like, something, I'm proud of my time. I'm going to take the spot. Yeah. If I had been further down, I would have been like, no, I'm not, I don't deserve a spot in a World Championships. But I was proud of my time, so I took the opportunity.
Go away. And yeah, it's Kona is the home of of Ironmans.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, you see people's like, do you want to go to Nice? Not everyone wants to go to Nice unless you live in Europe now. Well, it's, you know, if you're in Ireland, yeah, I'll go to Nice. But like, are you going to really fly from Australia to Nice? Probably not.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? For a champ. Well, a lot of people
Some
be like,
people are,
well, of course.
But Kona is what you want.
Yeah, everyone wants Kona.
Everyone wants Kona.
Not many people will be getting Kona anymore due to the fact that they're all going back. I didn't realize that.
Yeah, they only decided it this week.
Yeah, it will be. And it does. It's like
a world championship should be a world championship.
Yeah, and it should be in Kona.
Yeah.
The story, whether they do it over 2 different weekends.
So I think, they're actually going to do it on the one day.
They'll do it
Yeah, because when we were in Kona, the locals had kind of said they really didn't, because they tried to do 2 days, 1 day men, 1 day women.
Yeah.
And they said that was too much because businesses are closing down and it wasn't fair in the locals. So they're bringing it back to 1 day.
Yeah. And I suppose before we move on from your first Ironman and, you know, the amazing effort and achievement you had, girls getting into triathlons, okay? So obviously the scary factor is like not everyone needs to do an Ironman straight up.
Yeah.
But what would be your advice? Like, I suppose let's start. Yeah, someone comes to you. What was the first piece of advice you're going to give some young girl? Maybe mid-30s.
Having a midlife crisis.
We all, yeah.
What else? What does everyone else do?
Yeah.
Join a club.
Yeah.
100% join a club. You know, I joined the club, and I know I wasn't the most present with them. It was because I was split between football and I was with a cycling club, but 100% join a club. You know, as I said, it's a lonely sport, so you need supportive people around you. Yeah. Like, you can start with a few friends. Like, most clubs will have a beginner's 8-week course.
Yeah, and $200.
Yeah.
Like, honestly, best $200.
There you go.
Well, it's the best $200 you'll ever spend, but it's going to cost you about 20.
Oh my God,
40.
Triathlon is expensive, and that's why people are doing it in their 30s, because you have maybe a bit more disposable income at 30 in your 30s. But join a club, and then if you do decide you want to go down the Ironman route, get a coach. Like, I was busy with work, and I was like, I don't have time to think about my plan and everything. So that's why I went with a coach then. Yeah. But like, I definitely think, some people, like, it is an expensive sport, but I would rather look back at the end of the month and have spent that money on a coach or a club or whatever and be that bit fitter and that bit, because if you're doing it by yourself, there's more chance you're going to cause an injury. You're not going to get the same thing out of the race.
The motivation.
That's it. And accountability.
Yeah, accountability. That's
that's what you're paying for, but it's worth it.
Yeah, people don't realize that. They think I'm paying for the results. No, the results will come from the accountability that you are getting from the program. Yeah, and it is. Yeah, it's like they're $200, 8-week program. You'll start off doing a sprint. Short distance, take you an hour and a half, 2 hours to complete the whole event or whatever. When it comes to joining, and like we speak about the overheads, what advice do you have for people say, obviously for the swim we'll have our wetsuit and stuff. When it comes to a bike, because people think they need the fancy bikes. What advice have you got about the bike? Yeah, tell me about your first bike.
My first bike. Yeah, my first bike. It cost me a couple of $100, and it was actually from a girl in the triathlon club, right? Yeah. Now she's doing very well. She's still, you see her in first, second, third, and all the races.
That's where you pick up the cheap equipment.
Yeah. So I got her bike. But the funny thing about getting her bike, and she won't mind me joking about this because she's a brilliant triathlete.
Because she's definitely going to be listening to this, isn't she? Yeah.
But no, in the first race, it might have been like the week after I got the bike off her, we were both doing Coogee sprint, right? So, and we did it, and we were all sitting there, and I think I came third, but they pronounced my name wrong, and I didn't know I'd come third because they probably said Grainne Byrne, and I'm like, don't know who that girl is. But anyway, we were sitting going through Strava and times, and I must have said my average, and she was behind me, and she goes, "You were faster than me." And I was like, oh, and she was on her new fancy bike, and I was on the aluminium $500 bike. Yeah. And I'd actually gone faster than her. Yeah. So it was kind of funny.
People see it as a big entry barrier to be like, oh, I want to start triathlon.
No.
And we buy runners, you're now paying $250 for a good pair of runners. Everyone's spending money on runners. Obviously the wetsuit, you get a good wetsuit for $300. Truthfully, you get a cheaper one.
Go to Marketplace.
Yeah.
Especially
Marketplace. Jesus, don't even start. I had to get myself off that.
Oh, really?
I actually went through an addiction
for
buying stuff. I was like, I'm not spending $100 on a pair of sunnies. Next thing's find some guy on Marketplace. I'd be outside his house before he'd have me message. You know what I mean? It'd be like, I'll be up there in 5 minutes. I'm actually outside your house, fucking weirdo. And then the bike comes along, and there is the equipment can go down. And that's what I want people to realize, that we need to block out the noise and focus on what is it that we really need.
Yeah.
You know, the wetsuit does help. That's my number one thing for people. But yeah, with the bike, people think that they need the fancy handlebar.
No, you don't.
Yeah.
No, like, because as I said, I did my first half Ironman on that bike.
Oh, brilliant. Yeah.
And I averaged 32 on the 90K. On that.
That's good.
Yeah, you know, for my first, I think whatever was it, 2:45 I did it in on that bike. So you cannot make excuses. I know people, who are on 10 grand bikes and they're, they're not going as quick. So I think when you first get into it, just get entry level prices, get secondhand stuff. Yeah. Whenever you decide to really get into it and get into the Ironmans, then maybe, invest in something better. But I don't think you don't need to be putting big money in at the start.
Yeah. So the gear options. Now, like that, joining the club probably is the best way to find the gear for people. Yeah. And we like your bike, you probably get a bike off someone in the triathlon club or else on Marketplace. Yeah. Is there anything else girls should know in terms of like what to expect in terms of going it, like even signing up for events or insurance wise? Is what insurance, obviously people are probably worried about the fact that do I get injured? What insurance, are they insured for races?
So I suppose that would happen if you sign up for a club. Usually you have to join up with Triathlon WA. And that'll be your insurance for the race. Oh, brilliant. So you need to be part of, so some races you can do a day pass, but I think if you join up with the club, you actually you'll get a Triathlon WA license for the year. Yeah. But for some races, let's say if I was going over to the East Coast or someone's coming here, you can do a day license as well. But you do need a license to join up to a race because that will you be insured for that race. So I've never, there has been races. We've heard of races where bad things can happen. But that definitely shouldn't put you off. I don't think that'd be something to put you off.
With I suppose the season, it's now we're in the middle of we're the start of May. When is the triathlon season for people to say, okay, now is a good time to start? Because we'd be thinking about starting now. It's like going into winter. Yeah. So what would be?
I think the season here typically, it's like, I don't know. I see it like the financial year. Financial year here starts in July, and that's when the big charge comes through my account for the club. Yeah. So, so the season's kind of like July, through to we just had Bustle last week, and that's the end of the WA season, right? Brilliant. The first race of the WA season will be October. So I think there's a Rockingham race, Shoalwater maybe in October, and then there's Left Bank, which is a really good starter one at the end of November. Now I think Fremantle Triathlon Club, they start in October till end of November, and it's an 8-week course, and the goal is to do the Left Bank one at the end of November. So that's the Fremantle one. I don't know what the other clubs do.
We'll put that club in the bottom so people can save it and obviously come back to it again when it's actually, because it's the one thing you're like, okay, I'll just join the club and that way I have 8 weeks to train and there's an event, small event. You can do the Olympic if you wish. But it is, and that's people sometimes don't know where to start. That's the thing, and it is by joining the club. Plenty, there's plenty of guys, there's plenty of girls, plenty of everyone, all different ages that do want to start, and it is getting started. It is hard to go down to a new community of people and be like, oh, I actually can't swim up the length of the pool, but yet I want to do a triathlon. Well, guess what? Everyone else in that pool was in the exact same position as we all were. So it's a great sport to get into, and it's just knowing when the season is, because people are like, oh, I want to start doing it now. Yeah, you'd be like, oh.
But if they're thinking about it now, okay, you can start doing your runs, park runs here. That's when people tell me they want to start running. I'm like, park runs are every Saturday. 5K, they're free. There's 16 of them. There might be more now around Perth. And that's the best way I say to start running. With the bike, it's kind of a lot of people are nervous about that. I'm like, get an entry-level bike and get on the bike path. People don't like the roads. And then once you join the club, you have a group of people that will be going out. So,
No, it is. It's definitely something to get into. So we come off the back of Cairns 2023, and then what has the last year looked like then in terms of your triathlon journey? Where have we gone from? What's been kind of the next step in that?
So after Cairns, obviously had Kona.
Yeah.
So then.
Talk us through Kona. I haven't been there, but just a quick rundown. Is it something you I'm just going to go there and enjoy?
So a lot of people had said that, getting there is, enjoy it now.
Yeah.
Oh, like it still feels like a dream.
Yeah.
And the best thing was, like, it was the first year it was all women, and people thought, are the sponsors going to support it and whatnot? But like, the women were so motivating. Like, everyone was, it was very empowering. It was very girl power, which I'm not usually like a girly girl, but it really was, you know, very
all females.
It was very, like, it really was. And like, just the people you got to meet. So actually, we were lucky, the Irish girls were lucky that Joanne Murphy was going to be the first female MC for the race, right? So she then, you know, I got to meet Daniela Reef, who has the most Kona wins. I got to meet her just because we knew Joanne. We may have met at the after party, and she did not understand a word I said, but I still got to meet her, and I have a very blurry photo. You got to meet, like, I listened to a podcast, I Race Like a Girl, so it's these American girls, and like, I was out in the bike and I saw this girl class, and I was like, are you Amy Woods? And she's one of the talk, like, on the podcast, and she was like, yeah, whatever. Met her, and then ended up later on bumping into her and the pro triathlete that she does the podcast with, like, all these little things, like the people you get to meet, like, so Kona was, and the race then was amazing. Like, it was tough, like it is supposed to be one of the hardest courses, and it was tough, but it was an amazing experience. Like, and I wish I could relive it. And now with the one day coming up, like, I don't know, I'd probably never make it again, but Kona was very special.
Yeah, it is. It's definitely something. It's a bucket list item, and definitely taking the opportunity when it came up was definitely the right decision. No, because it is. It's going to be impossible to get there. So you have, like, you've had that experience. You had that early experience with Kona. Talk me through getting to the World Championships in Taupo.
So
for the 70.3.
So after having a year of my life, like, you know how many hours you spend in full Ironman, I decided that, okay, I want to go back to the half distance and see how that goes. So actually, after Kona, I went and did Busso 6 weeks later, but my body was broken pretty much. And like, so the goal was, with the half Ironman, I wanted to break the 5 hours. So went to Busso, but I was tired from Kona. I did 5:10, so I was like, okay, it's within reach.
Just jumping into
it's within reach, right? The sub 5. And so then my brother had started asking me questions about triathlon. So I was like, right, well, why don't we race each other? So we planned. So this is June 2024. We'd signed up for half Ironman in Elsinore in Denmark. So my sister lives in Copenhagen. So we're like, it's in Europe. None of my family's ever seen me race before. My brother lives in New York. So he flew over. I flew over. My family, half my family flew over to Denmark. And we were going to have, a big family race. Brother versus sister.
That family, it's great to have a family like that, where, like, you know, like my brother, you have people all over the world, and it's like, well, it's a good excuse now to travel and take your bike with you.
Yeah, like, this is my brother doing his first race. Yeah, he'd never done a sprint. He'd never done an Olympic.
What's his name?
Lachlan. So Lachlan's 2 years younger than me. But so this is his first race, but now 1 year on, and now at the end of that race, now I did beat him, right? But I was coming up the finish line, and it was 5 hours and 46 seconds.
Oh, so no way!
I still have not cracked the 5, but now Lachlan came in 5:15 in his first ever Ironman or half Ironman. But he is about to do he's done a second. I think he did 5:05.
Brilliant.
Yeah, I don't think I'll be beating him next time.
Taking 10 minutes off your 70.3 time.
Yeah, that was probably, he did that after about 2 months. Yeah, and now he's doing one in Colombia. He said no.
He's your adventurous, Lachlan. Yeah.
So I'd say he should crack the 5 now.
Oh, nice.
But no. So, like, you know, that's someone else that I hope I inspired to get into it. So
the 70.3. I was like, oh, you've done an Ironman. I'm not going to spend the money on doing the 70.3. But now I'm like, oh no, you can really just go balls out. Yeah, like, you know, when you train.
You don't have to be like, I need to hold back something. No, it's you go for it.
You got to trust the process of your training, and you know, like, I'm just going to basically push as hard as I can, knowing that you have experience.
Yes,
you know, obviously,
that's
training a beginner definitely do hold back.
Yeah,
a little bit. So you did you've done just over 5 hours, and that qualified you to go to another World Championship.
Yeah, so we had the roll down. And it's funny, this is what I mean, like, so 5 hours and 46 seconds in previous years would have got me in the podium, right? So I think the year before it would have got me second place. But this race, all 8 above me got sub 5. Yeah. So, like, this just shows, like, people are getting better, like, the sport is getting stronger, and more girls are doing it. But luckily, the roll down went again, and there was only 2 spots.
Oh, no way. Yeah.
So 2 spots. And I'm like, I went to this roll down, but I really didn't know whether I was going to get it.
Yeah.
And
so you have to accept the offer if your
yes,
name
you have
is
to
called.
go up and accept it straight away.
And pay for it.
Credit
card.
Of course, it's Ironman.
They literally tell you bring your credit card.
Yeah, and you have to have a physical card and tap straight away. But yeah, and it's in US dollars.
Your partners, give me that.
Yeah. But yeah, so I was holding my breath, and all my family had come, and they'd already been and this was this is the evening after the race.
Yeah.
So like they were tired. They
they had enough of it.
I've realized now watching races, it is more tiring watching than taking part.
Yeah, we do have to I do appreciate the people that come and support me.
Yeah.
And drive the buses and everything else.
Yeah.
It's a big time out of their side of things, but continue anyway, sorry.
Oh yeah, so thankfully the spots are going, and the reason the girls above us, because this is in Denmark and the world champs were in New Zealand, so this was where I was like, right, I think I have a chance that it will go down.
Not many people live
who's gonna book a last minute flight. So actually there was a couple of English girls who'd actually won the race, and they already had spots, and then they were coming for more training basically, and then a few more said no because it was too far, and actually the girl above me, I was Mexican, so she came 8th and she took her spot, and then I took the next spot. It was kind of nail biting for a while, but then once we go down, got the spot.
So you've had your experience with Kona, and you've had your World Champions experience with 70.3.
So now I'm retired.
No, you're retired now.
Where do you go from there? Well,
I know.
No. Where I go from there is I want the sub 5.
Yeah.
There's
always something. There is, isn't there?
If I had got it in Denmark, I think I would have been.
You'd get
maybe I'm done.
You get it.
I'll do it in Busselton. Probably not this year, but next year. I think that'll be roughly the plan.
Yeah. No, it is. There's always something. There's a time. We say we don't work off time. We just want to improve our swim. We just want to improve the bike.
Yeah.
We just want a better bike. And then it's like, sub 5. And sub whatever it is.
Sub 11 then. No.
But I suppose, look, come here. It's great, the triathlon journey and everything in between. And and it's not just swim, bike and run. You also have a big focus, and I want to talk to you about this charity cycle.
Yeah.
And again, it's great that you can show up and do these things, but I think your family have a big part to play in it as well.
Yeah.
But can you talk to me through about this charity cycle that you've been doing the last couple of years, but you've obviously given it a break this year, was it?
Yes.
Because you've been injured.
Yeah.
It's a whole another story in itself. But talk me through the charity cycle and how people, when people see you doing this, what's involved and what's it all for? Okay,
so this is Ride for Youth. So they raise money for Youth Focus. So they look after young people's mental health. Yeah. So this was a couple of years ago. I knew my company I was working for, they sponsored a team, but nobody from work was on this team. And I was like, oh, I like the sound of this. Yeah. Can I get involved? So you basically get 6 months training. So it's Trench Health and Fitness. So this is who I cycle. This is my cycling club.
Okay.
And it started 23 years ago. Yeah. So it started with a group of men, and so it's basically you cycle from Albany to Perth. So you do it over 4.5 days. Yeah.
Nice.
So
Albany.
It's 700 kilometers. Yeah. And you stop along schools along the way. So we stop off at maybe a few high schools, and people will share their mental health journey. Oh, so, we do the 6 months training so that we train from October through to March, and then
write that down.
October through to March, and in March, we take a week. We drive down to Albany, and then we get on our bikes and we cycle the whole way back.
Over 4 days.
Over 4.5 days.
Oh, amazing! Yeah,
and it's honestly the best. It's the best thing. I've talked about how the GA family here, Southern Districts, are my family, but now this cycling community has become my family. Yeah. They do the 6 months training for this Ride for Youth, but then I cycle the rest of the year with them as well. Yeah. Now I took this year out because I was focusing on Topo for the World Championships, and then I became injured. So I broke my ankle in January, and I was glad I wasn't doing the ride because it would have devastated me to miss it. But I've done it for 3 years, and I can encourage anyone who can sign up for this. So it's Ride for Youth.
Yeah. Will you be putting a team in next year?
Yeah. Well, it's companies will sponsor the team.
Yeah.
And then you join in. So there is you have to raise a set amount of money.
Okay.
So that is one thing, and that is what holds people back. But if anyone wants to reach out to me that's interested, you just, if you plan now and maybe get your own employer to sponsor your fundraising, or we used to hold events, and the Irish community is strong. We look for support.
They will back you. Yeah, that's the thing. You find the people that will back you, and It is. There's so many great organizations, and that's it. Like, you know, you're finished off there on like children's mental health. We talk about our own mental health, but it's like you're doing that for children. It's like, being able to see them, they get to see you do something crazy, you know, for 4 days cycling. Oh, they're cycling to Perth. Some of these kids down south never probably even been to Perth. You know what I mean? Like even a drive to Perth would be like well beyond them, or even something that they won't see until they're maybe in uni or whatever. But it is a good way to give back. But Gráinne, I appreciate your time today. Before we go, where can people find you? Obviously, it's a very easy one to remember, but if people are looking for you and they want to get in touch and they want to hear more, they want more advice, I'm sure you're always open to advice for anyone.
No, but I'm not. I don't think I'm that exciting to follow.
No, you are.
I do have the Diary of an IronWoman page, but that, it's been a bit not been as active now since I broke my ankle. But no, I'm heading to Slovenia now for 3 months, so I'll be a mountain goat on the bike. So there'll be plenty of cycling.
Perth is getting too cold for Gráinne for the winter. But tell me, just I suppose, Slovenia. What, your partner lives in Slovenia?
Yeah. He
lives in here. He's here.
He's here. And you know, he's always talked about wanting to go back and help his dad like build. So they're renovating the house. And like I'd talked to you about this already, but we didn't really talk. Like a couple of years ago, like my dad passed suddenly whenever I was home, and you know, I just kind of said to him like, we'll head home for the couple of months. You get to spend time with your dad. Like I would wish I could do that. So that was really why a couple of weeks ago we just decided, let's do it.
That's great. And like, while you can, you might as well
spend the time.
Take your bike, get into the hills. Change of experience. You get a chance to do, and it's, I suppose, the perspective you have that like his dad is still here and you've lost your dad, that it's an easy decision. Like, you know, whereas before be like, we could go back to Ireland again, or you're happy out here, but no, like take the time.
Take the opportunity when you can.
Go
you know,
you can. No, it is. It's great. And like, you'll get to experience in other parts of the world. You get to meet his family for a little bit longer.
And, you know, learn some Slovenian. Nastravia.
I'll go.
Cheers. That's it. The only word I know is cheers. Well, and it's like the typical Irish knows how to.
No, well, Gráinne, come here. Thank you very much for your time, and I appreciate it, and I look forward to seeing what you do. And I will maybe myself, I think I need to kick up the arse, and I think Bustleton 70.3 might be just what I need as well. So
go for it.
I might have to get a couple of cycles and a couple of runs in, because I'm getting kind of jealous of you getting back on the bike. I haven't taken my bike out at all. But that's for another day. But people, thank you very much for listening. Appreciate your time, and chat to you all soon. Take care. Bye-bye. Lovely. Yay.
I'm sorry.
Perfect.
I didn't get talking about what
I know.
the other fucking went. I've rambled about shit.
No, you don't worry.
What is it, Corva?
Perfect.
I know what you wanted to talk about.
No, but like you never have to worry about what you do and don't talk about. You know what I mean? It's like, it is what it is. That's the way I always see it. Like, I won't lose sleep over tonight. I would lose sleep over if I thought I asked you something and it upset you. Or not even about your dad, but about anything, you know, or something stupid. You asked that for. So that's what you. No. That's what